marketers. Deborah Eckerling here.
And I'm Keith Smith, and we host the MPN Meta Marketing Show, which is not just another marketing podcast, but the marketing podcast about all the other marketing podcasts.
Podcasts are booming, right? We love them, and people actually listen. They don't scroll, they don't swipe. Well, except maybe during the ad breaks.
But here's the secret. With the Marketing Podcast Network, your ads don't make people hit skip. We put your brand on shows that people actually want to hear.
That's right. We match your message with podcasts that make marketing nerds like us perk up and take notes, or at least nod knowingly, pretending they understand.
And don't worry, because we'll deliver your ad naturally. People might even think that we love your brand personally, which of course we totally do, unless it's a veggie smoothie, then maybe not.
If you want your brand heard without making listeners roll their eyes,
head to marketingpodcasts.net and catch marketing fans at work, rest, and play. Seriously, your audience is already listening. Make sure they hear your brand and not our awkward jokes.
Join the conversation, because good ads shouldn't just be tolerated, they should be enjoyed.
Yes!
Hey, have you heard about Podcast On? This is a global podcast charity event where hosts dedicate one episode to a nonprofit they care about and release it together the same week. No fundraising, no fees, just powerful storytelling for good. Podcast On 2026 runs March 14th to March 20th. Join thousands of podcasters worldwide and use your voice for impact. It's free, it's simple, and it starts at podcaston.org.
The Marketing Podcast Network is a proud partner of Podcast On.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today.
Hey friends, welcome back to Your Radiant Spirit. Before we dive into today's conversation, I wanted to take a moment to share something a little personal. I recently had a body code session with today's guest, Kate, and it was nothing short of profound. We worked on healing some childhood energy stored in my throat chakra, and there were some things that came up about being yelled at as a kid that still affect me today as a 44-year-old woman. And Kate gently and intuitively guided the session in a way that felt safe, powerful, and surprisingly light. So through her muscle testing and energy work, we uncovered and released those emotional imprints I didn't even realize I'd been carrying around for decades, and I could literally feel a softening in my throat. Like the pressure to hold it in was melting away. So if you've ever felt like you're stuck in an emotional pattern and can't figure out why, or if you've ever sensed that something from your past is still running the show, I want you to really listen in today. The conversation will give you so much insight into how energy healing works and how our body stores emotional memory, and why it's never too late to free yourself from pain you didn't even know you were still holding in. So let's dive in.
Welcome to Your Radiant Spirit, the podcast where art, energy, and inspiration come alive. Hosted by award-winning intuitive painter Heather Eck, synesthetic artist, chakra expert, and spiritual guide, this show invites you to explore the transformative power of color, creativity, and spiritual healing. Heather's unique gift of seeing color through energy fuels her stunning spirit portraits and chakra-aligned artworks, designed to bring healing and alignment to your life. Whether you're curious about the magic of chakras, looking to unlock your creative potential, or eager to connect with your radiant spirit, you're in the right place. Your radiant spirit is calling. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Your Radiant Spirit. I'm so excited to have a wonderful guest today, Kate Patra. She is a certified emotion code, body code, and belief code practitioner who helps clients release trapped emotions, balance the body, and shift limiting beliefs. Through Zoom, phone, distance, and in-person sessions, she guides people from all over the country in clearing energetic blockages, empowering them to move forward with greater freedom, focus, and overall harmony. This work transformed Kate's life in ways she never expected, healing physical, mental, and emotional obstacles that once held her back. Experiencing such profound change, she felt compelled to share this powerful practice with others. As a former special education teacher, Kate is passionate about accessibility and inclusivity, and this energy practice speaks to that part of her soul, as it is accessible to everyone and anyone, regardless of age or ability. Energy healing is for everyone, and if Kate can heal, so can you. So welcome to the show, Kate. I'm so happy to meet you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
It's so nice to see this kind of work in practice. I've learned a little bit about it, but tell us more about what emotion code, body code, and belief code is. And then I'd love to hear how you got started.
Essentially, with this energy work, there are the 3 layers: emotion code, body code, and belief code. And emotion code tends to simply focus on the emotions, trapped emotions, your compound traumas. Think of it as your energetic emotional baggage, that we all have because life happens to us, And then you go up to body code, and that can also include emotion code. So it also includes your, energies of emotions, but it also then taps into pathogens, toxins, your circuits, your systems, your chakras, color deficiencies. I mean, there's just, you name it, there's just so many different things within the body code. So it can also focus then on how your energy is impacting how your body functions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then the 3rd layer is called belief code. And so that also includes, think of it as like, they stack on top of each other. That also includes emotion code and body code. And with belief code, though, that kind of does the inner, deeper subconscious work of tapping into our limiting beliefs and our limiting belief systems and then releasing those. Because essentially, like as we grow and go through life, we are going to end up having limiting beliefs that are in our subconscious that are impacting us. And we don't even know how they are. And we don't even know they're there a lot of the times, but they're there and they're a filter for our life. And so with belief code, we kind of remove that filter so that you can be back into balance and you can see the world as it's supposed to be and as it's meant to be for your eyes. And yeah, so that's essentially what those 3 things do. I found the work through, it was probably like my last year of teaching. Well, I know it was my last year of teaching. I went out on a medical leave because I was having chronic illness stuff. It wasn't anything significant or serious, but it was chronic enough over several years from like, I got to do something. So I took a leave from work, which is very hard because as a special education teacher, like your kids are your babies. And I was in middle school, so I looped with them from 7th to 8th. So it was a very hard decision for me to take the year for myself. And I thought, whatever, got to fix this. I'm going to do it. Went to doctors, went to integratives, did all the things, holistic from outsides, Eastern, Western, and just couldn't find something to move the needle. And so my acupuncturist actually suggested this work. She's like, listen, I have this practitioner. Why don't you check it out? And that's how I got into it. And it made such a profound impact on not only, I started by thinking just of the physical, but then emotionally and mentally, it made such an impact on me that I thought, this is amazing. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Wow. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but how did you start the work of, it seems like a lot, right? Your emotions, your physical, these subconscious beliefs that we all hold that we just kind of grow up with. Where was the first place that you started saying, I'm going to use this, let's figure out how to feel better with it?
Well, initially I started working with a great practitioner, and she's very much my mentor still to this day. And we worked pretty regularly, like once a week, once every other week, depending on how long my body needed to process energies. And I kind of went in with my intentions of working on, let's say, like my digestive system or my reproductive system to like focus on the ailments that were going on there. And what I realized, because, my human brain's thinking, oh, it's just going to be physical stuff. Maybe there's a toxin there, pathogen or whatever. It was, the majority of it was emotional stuff that was really impacting how my organs and glands were functioning. So what I did was, and what my practitioner always reminded me was, it's very much like layers of an onion. We're going to do an energy session and we're going to release some energies. But in doing that, it's wonderful and it's great. And you're going to process, but you're also going to bring up new energies that are ready to go. And so it was really a long process of just having to be patient and having to know that little by little, I'm going to chip away at the things that were externally bothering me, but I was also going to chip away at the internal things that I didn't even know were impacting me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I worked with her for so long that she's like, listen, girlfriend, we are going to train you on it, your own sessions. And so she kind of gave me a guide, and I read the books and I started doing it on myself. And I was reading the books one night and I'm still in my teacher brain. So that was my career at the time. And I'm like, why is this not for, I mean, every kid with disabilities could use this. And that's kind of where the passion started to bring it elsewhere. But it was because it really moved the needle for me. It was just finally the one thing that got me unstuck, that I just felt like this should be everywhere. Everybody should know about this work. Everyone should
Yeah.
have accessibility to this.
Okay, so is this sort of like muscle testing with trying to find what the stuck belief is or what the energy center is or what the organ is? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So yeah, essentially that's kind of how I started, is you have to hone in your muscle testing. So there's all different kinds of muscle testing. There's pendulums. I do the ring and ring right now. So if it stays like a strong connection is a yes, if it breaks apart, it's a no. But there's different kinds. You really just find what works best for you. And then what happens is you go into the session and really kind of think of your intentions. For me, personally, when I was going through it, I was just kind of thinking, okay, what are my loudest symptoms right now? And sometimes it was physical, but sometimes it was emotional. Sometimes because I was out on that medical leave for work, I was feeling so lost and so depressed and so kind of fearful because I didn't know what the future was going to bring. And so sometimes we would work on that. And from there, what happens is the practitioner will read the subconscious energy and muscle test and go through an app. There's an app on the phone that the creators of this work created. And essentially you work through and you go through the app and you decode left, right, and you kind of whittle it down and figure out what exactly it is that you have to release, where it's stored in your body. Sometimes you can do a timestamp of when it came from, and then you can release it. And what I really appreciate about this work is that I can never release anything that someone's not ready to release. And I can never release anything that's improperly decoded. So it very much is a foolproof system. Like your subconscious always has your,
Yeah.
it really does. And so it was nice for me as a client to go into the sessions and go, okay, this is what I want to work on. And what's very cool is then the client just sits back and lets the energy flow. You hydrate and you have to just be open to it. But then everything else is on the practitioner. And for once it was like, oh, it just felt like a relief. Like I don't have to, be in charge of anything the practitioner is going to decode because my subconscious already knows what I want to release.
Wow. Okay, so then talk about the process of releasing. What does that look like? If the client just sort of sits back and lets that happen, is it an energetic releasing? Are you doing anything to help that release? Tell us more.
It depends on the type of session. So if it's in person, I'll release on the person and I take a magnet and I just run over the governing meridian from forehead to the back. If we're on Zoom or distance, because I work with people from all over, I will have to connect to their subconscious energy by proxy. Now I can't read minds or anything like that, but I just have to connect to their energy and basically get permission to do that. And then when I decode, I release it on me as a proxy. So I will release it on me, over my governing meridian from forehead to back, and then the energy will flow out of them. Now, a lot of times, and the majority of the times, it always is energy, but there are times where some physical things will happen, especially if you have like a physical pathogen or toxin or something that is ready to be released. But we have to get the energy moving first to get the physical to follow, because essentially it really is all about our energetic balance. Because that's how our bodies were designed, right? We were designed to just be able to innately heal ourselves, and then life happens and we evolve as a society, and now we have technology and we have different, pollutants and things like that are in our world that never were before. And so we have, those types of things can imbalance our energy, which then imbalances us physically. When our energy is off, it's going to wear down on certain organs and glands and systems and, mentally, spiritually, in all the areas of life.
In everything. Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that this work is really for anybody. What's the shift that made you say, I have been doing this for myself, I want to do it for other people, and that it's accessible for anybody?
That really spoke to my special education heart. For 20 years, I was an advocate for kids to make sure that they, got what they needed, and they were worthy and they had the right to the same things other people did, and make things accessible, so that they could progress in life. And I felt like the energy work was the same way. For me, I was doing it on myself long enough where then I just kind of dabble with like my sister, because she's a Reiki master. She gets energy work. And I'm like, hey, can I practice on you? And, and then it was like seeing it help her and then knowing it helped me. And then I would reach out to friends and I'm like, I think I need to get certified because it just felt so good to move the needle for other people in the same way it helped me. And I think that knowing that I was going to have to kind of shift away from the school system, just, because of health things that I was still working on. And just, I think it was time for a change in my life. And I felt so cold to it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't read enough about it. I couldn't read the books fast enough. It just very much felt like an inner calling and an inner knowing. There's more that I can do for other people, not just teaching, because that's a valuable career and I loved it, but I just felt like there was more.
I love that. And I can see your energy sort of shift as you're talking about it, like you were a sponge in taking all of that information in. And I saw on your website too that you have sessions for kids and teens and even pets. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, that was so fun. So when you go through the certification, you have to build a very big portfolio. So you start it with emotion code and you work your way up. And with each one that you complete, you have a chunky portfolio to make sure that you're ready for the job. And in that portfolio, you have to do animal sessions. So I saw that and I thought, oh, geez, like my human brain just wasn't wrapping around it yet. Even though knowing like family, like my sister had done Reiki on animals before, so it's doable. And you read the book and you hear all about it, but it was so fun. I can't tell you how fun it is. So now I work with a lot of cats and dogs to help them get along better. But there's one particular story. There were two cats. One cat, older cat, been in the home. A new cat was brought in. They weren't getting along. So I had to do energy sessions on both, or I got to do energy sessions on both, I should say. And I would say after the second energy session on each, like I got a picture from the owner of them just like next to each other on the bed. And it was so funny. Look at them, their energy. And they've been getting along ever since, so it's just wild what you can do. And it really, when I'm doing energy work on animals, it's very similar to humans.
Yeah.
It's very similar. I will say the only difference is that the length of the sessions are shorter. And I do the same for kids. And I think it's just because it's a little smaller system. They can't process as much as we can as we get older. So, but that's the only difference. But it's just, it was so fun. It was so wildly entertaining.
I think that's amazing. I've got some friends who are Reiki masters who work with animals. And one in particular who works with farm animals, and she goes out and she does Reiki for horses and cattle. And it's incredible. We're all energy. Everything that we engage with is energy. And so, we can all benefit from that energy healing. So are there clients that you've worked with who you've seen have some really powerful transformational shifts? And can you share an example of somebody there?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an emotional one and a physical one. A physical one, I had a client who had significant neck pain and lower back pain, significant to the point where couldn't move, and was working on him for a little while. There was one specific session where an energy came up called entities. So entities are negative energies. They kind of wreak havoc on our lives. They can cause all sorts of things. They're just the worst. Now, every time they come up, I'm like, good. Right. So happy to get rid of them for people. Got you. I cleared a significant amount of entities on him and the pain went away within 24 hours. I mean, just gone. Now the stiffness is still there. So there was still energy that we needed to move at some point, but the pain completely gone. Which just, what I also love about this work is anytime you feel like you doubt it or you're like, is it working? There's always something. There's a shred of like evidence that you're like, man, this really does work. It's always kind of really proving itself to you. So that was cool. And then I had a mother who she is the mom to about 5 or 6 kids. I mean, she's a busy mom. She's a busy mom. And came to me and she was feeling super depressed and just felt like, she explained it as she felt so disconnected from joy and from happiness. She's like, I just can't find it. I know it's in there, but I can't find it. And, we did I still work on her to this day, but after our first couple of sessions, she came back to me. She's like, and I'll get teary talking about it, but she's like, for the first time, in my life. Like I was driving down the road and she goes, the sun was out and she was headed to pick up someone from something, of course, because, that's what you are as a mom. And she's like, I kind of just looked around and she's like, I was so grateful and I felt so happy. And she's like, it was the first time that I felt like truly felt it in my body.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. And, and she just was so grateful for that. And I was so grateful she shared that with me because it means so much, but it's
Mhm.
that type of thing where she just couldn't access it. And then we did some energy work for a few sessions and it was like, there it was. And again, like the layers of an onion, we're all still a work in progress because life is going to continue to happen to us. So we're going to continue to have energies get stuck within our bodies. But, the fact that she was able to see that happiness, it was like the hope and the positivity that she needed to kind of empower herself to continue going and to continue, her healing journey, which I think is important for people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's so true. A lot of the clients that I encounter through spirit portrait sessions they sort of already know like intrinsically, internally, what it is that's bothering them. But it's not until somebody sort of holds up the mirror and says, this is what I'm seeing. Does this make sense for you? That they go, yeah, that's exactly what it is. They just couldn't either find the words for it or they didn't quite know where it was or what it felt like. And then once they see it, it's like you've given them permission to say, okay, now you can go and work on this.
Yeah,
Or now you can go and talk about this. That permission is so important for people's healing.
I think so too. And I think it's empowering too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can see not only do you have the permission that it's okay to feel that way, but then it's also okay to get rid of it. And I think also too, and I find this with some of my younger clients, is when I go through and go, hey, here are the symptoms of this energy. It's almost like you see a relief in them of like, okay, so I'm not losing my mind. This is why I feel this way. Like it just helps bring them a sense of peace. And then, and then there's times where clients are like, well, is this how everybody is? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're all like that. Like,
Yeah.
because I had one girl, she's 14, and she goes, well, your energy must be clear. And I go, oh, girlfriend, I'm like, I do energy sessions with myself as often as my energy will allow. I'm like, this is a light journey, and it's just a matter of you just keep raising the bar,
That's exactly right.
So it was very super sweet, but just to know, like, it's okay and that we all have this. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter wrong. This is just part of it's part of life,
I love that. I love that. So I'm thinking about myself because I had a situation this morning where I got triggered by feeling left out. And this is like the third or fourth time in the last week that I have like triggered on this feeling of feeling left out or feeling not included or feeling what have you. And I think everybody's got kind of like their core wound. Like my core wound is acceptance. So if I feel left out, it's because I don't feel accepted. And I was sitting in this space and I was literally, I'm crying over it. I'm going, this feels so annoying.
Yes.
I was annoyed by the feeling, right? And I'm sitting there going, where did this start? Like, where did this start with me? Because I need to know where it started, why I'm being tested or triggered by it right now, and how do I get past this? Because it's one of those things that as like a 44-year-old woman, I feel like I shouldn't be, we should all over ourselves, but I shouldn't be sitting here feeling badly about that. I have to be able to move on from that. So if somebody is sitting in that feeling, what's the first place they could start with trying to clear that or just understand themselves a bit better?
I think in terms of where they can start, I think it's really looking at the pattern because patterns are powerful and reflections are powerful. So for example, for you, you're so self-aware, like, okay, I'm feeling left out. This has to do with my core wound of acceptance. There's got to be something from your past where there's something that's lodged within you that is causing that to be a trigger. And because that's in our system, and that's the thing with this energy work, there's so many different kinds and types within an energy session that can come up, but they can all have kind of the same root of not feeling accepted. And so we can have that energy within us, and then our subconscious can be connected to it somehow. And then that's either what's triggering us or it's what's bringing in those situations into our life to help reflect it to us to go, here is what you need to work on.
Yeah.
I think just noticing those patterns is the first step, and then doing the energy work to get rid of it. So for example, for you with acceptance piece, there might be something, from your childhood, like a faulty core identity, deep, deep, deep in your subconscious that happened when you were 4, 5, 3, any age, where our brains are just sponges, picking up the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you picked that experience up, that energy got lodged in your field, and that's now what's radiating. So that's what you're going to bring into your life.
Yeah.
The other thing too to think of is we inherit stuff. We inherit stuff in the womb. We inherit stuff from our parents who have then inherited it from their parents and so on. I mean, the energies I've cleared that have been from, several generations ago is pretty awesome, but also kind of mind blowing to think, oh my gosh, like that's impacting my life the minute I'm born. So there could be things like that. But yeah, to get back to your question, I would say first look for the patterns and look for those reflections and really dig deep into the reflection. Like you didn't go, okay, here's how I'm feeling. What's the root of that feeling? Oh, it's not being accepted. Like for me, a lot of my triggers, it all comes down to feeling not seen and not worthy. Those are kind of my two cores. And I find that comes up a lot in my own sessions. It's just like that self-worth, self-love, like that type of thing.
Yeah. That's so interesting too, because I think, and my spiritual teacher taught me this years and years ago too. So I sort of pay attention to a lot of our wounds are either in our root chakra or in our sense of identity, right? Like they're typically in the feeling of belonging, being accepted, being cared for, and also, because some people have wounds in both of those energy centers, this feeling of being seen and how you show up and how people are able to sort of connect with you. And so I'm wondering if you had noticed trends among your clients where sort of energetically, collectively, we're all sort of experiencing some of the same kinds of blockages.
Yes. So there's trends on two different levels. It's so wild to me, the patterns I see each week, or let's say each month. So for example, there's a type of energy called a idea allergy. And it's a faulty connection that we make with an idea. So an idea comes into our view, and for whatever reason, we make a kind of a negative association with it. And then that gets stuck in our energy field, or can if we're imbalanced in some other way. Maybe we're stressed or overwhelmed or super emotional when it comes into our field. We make a negative correlation to it. And then with our subconscious now seeking to protect us, anytime that idea comes back into our view, we have a negative reaction to it. It's a faulty connection. So long story short, to say this past month, idea allergies with everyone. And so there's been, it's just wild to me how, and it cracks me up because I'm like, well, it's allergy season here. How funny is, and that's like the running joke I have with all my clients, but it very much can run by theme in that regard, in terms of like the collective must be ready to release those types of things. But at the base core of things, a lot of it, the majority of the core wounds are self-love, self-worth, not being able to authentically express yourself. That's a huge one in people.
The big one. Yeah.
Big one. And then, you see that manifest in thyroid stuff and that type of thing. But yeah, it's that feeling of just worthiness too, So it's,
wow.
Yeah. That seems to be like the majority of the core wounds when you really, really get down to the base level.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, because when I do color readings for people, especially for women, a lot of them show up as being out of balance in their throat and their heart. And it manifests for me as the color turquoise. And so a lot of us are attracted to blues and to turquoises, and these colors are because we're trying to let the colors minister to those areas where we need some support. But it's always about this idea of self-love and compassion, and also the ability to speak authentically about what it is that you need. Yeah. And a lot of times that's the place where we constrict and we hold back and we don't express. And so I think energetically, that's like you said, one of the biggest things that, especially I think as women and moms, and we're just busy. And so we sort of hold on to or like really squeeze ourselves into these places where we're not letting ourselves really be honest about what it is that we need or what it is that we want, and to ask for that. And so that creates a blockage in that area. And so you're working on releasing that through energetic healing and acknowledgement of what is that wound or what is that pain, and let's get it out of the body. And sort of my approach is, okay, that's great. Let's let color also help you. So use that color to help support. So I feel like there's good synergy here, because if you're helping somebody release in their heart space, they can work with greens or pinks that will help support that too. So it's all connected. It's so fascinating to me.
It really is. It really is. And there's even a part of, you just made me think of this. There's a part in body code where there's a color deficiency, or you can have a color excess, because, like, as you know, all colors have their own vibrational frequency and they all serve their own purpose, as you just said. And some people, if they're imbalanced in some way or have a negative correlation or experience with a color, they can kind of unintentionally, subconsciously avoid it,
Yeah.
but they need it in their field. And
Yeah.
so a color deficiency will come up. Or a lot of times they'll get a color excess of like blacks and navies, because everyone wears blacks and navies, and I'm like, more color in your life to balance it out. So that's so true, that it's just our worlds are incredibly interwoven.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially like you said, we pull things into our field that we're not even aware are there, that you are subconsciously avoiding certain colors because it represents a certain energy or a certain emotion or a certain physical need or imbalance that you're just not willing to look at yet. Well, this is fascinating. I would love to do a session with you, because I feel like I want to work through this feeling, this meltdown that I had this morning, and kind of figure out, like, where did that come from? Let's get it out, because I don't want to feel that way anymore. I got to get that. Let's get it moving.
And once you find out where it comes from, it's like, oh, okay. And then you just feel like you feel hopeful, because it takes a while, because that's the thing with our limiting beliefs and our belief systems. Some of them have been in our field for so long that we've also then created more belief systems associated. Again, it's like
little chains of things.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say, the other thing I was thinking of when you were talking about women is we hold so much. I release so much energy from our ovaries, from our uterus, from mammary glands. I mean, it's a common theme, talking about patterns like we were. And I think that's just where a lot of our energy goes as females, is it just goes to our reproductive areas. And then we wonder why, we have such horrible PMS, or why, we're feeling this way or that way, or and things.
Or why our hips are so tight. A lot of us hold that pain in our hips too.
Yeah, absolutely. And ankle and hips,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was the other enlightening part when I first started this work, is like the emotions that are associated with organs and glands. And just because at the time I was having just awful reproductive stuff, like, just horrible pains and things like that. Then I'm like, this is not normal. And I looked at the emotions and I'm like, oh, unworthiness, self-love, all that type of stuff came up. And that's what really helped me figure out like my core stuff even further. Like, well, no wonder, that, I'm not feeling the best because certain glands and organs that were taxed, I was feeling those emotions pretty intensely. And it's kind of like a chicken and egg. What causes one versus the other? I don't, because I think it's a cyclical thing, like you feel anger, that's your liver. But then do you feel more angry because you have anger in your liver?
Right. Right. And you keep feeding it.
Yeah. So that's where the energy work comes in, and you just, slowly release all those energies, and you do,
oh my gosh,
end up feeling better. You do. I don't know. It's worked
I love it.
for me. That's why I tell all my clients, I'm like, listen, if it can help me and get me out of like my drudgery, it can help you.
I love that. Have you heard of this author and healer, Inna Siegel?
No.
So Inna has written a couple of books. I think I've got one down here. I'll show you. It's called The Secret Language of the Body. And it's a go-to of mine.
Oh, I love that.
And she associates emotion and dis-ease in the body with particular, so like cervical cancer, out of flow with life, resisting your femininity, feeling disrespected as a woman, feeling unwanted, lacking in affection. And it goes on. And so she has all these different ailments in the body, how they relate to the emotional. And then she gives you prayers and things to help try to clear it. But she also works with color too. So this is sort of bridging, I think, the way that the emotions manifest in the body as a physical issue, and then trying to help clear it through meditations and prayers and things like that too, it's all so fascinating to me. I could talk about it for hours, forever.
I love it so much. I love it so much. Yeah, me too. That's
I
awesome.
can
Like that book. I love
Yeah,
it.
you got to
That
check it out.
reminds me of Louise Hay. She had a little book that you could go through and go, okay, knee pain, that's associated with not being able to, or feeling like you're not being able to move forward.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
absolutely.
that really makes you think and go,
It does.
oh, the emotion really does impact the physical.
It absolutely does. I mean, if you think about depression, even, that energy makes you feel like you're, carrying a 300-pound weighted blanket on your shoulders and you don't want to get out of bed. So that absolutely impacts the physical and the emotional and the colors too. You tend to wear more black or gray because there's a lack of that love in that color too. So it's incredible. I have loved chatting with you. This is amazing. So, and I do want to book a session with you. I think this would be fantastic. I definitely need it. So tell our listeners where they can find you and how they can work with you.
Okay. So first of all, I'm excited for our session. I always get so excited because it's so fun because everyone's so unique. But in terms of people can find me, my website is katepatraenergy.com. And then I'm on TikTok as KP.energy healing. I'm on Instagram as KP_energy healing. I also have a Facebook page that's Kate Patra Energy as well. But you guys can find me there. And then in terms of my website, if anyone has questions, I don't have a space on my website to schedule just yet because I kind of like to see what people want because there's 3 different types of sessions. I can do distance where people just live their life and do their thing. And I do the session and I send them the notes afterwards and an audio and break it all down for them. Usually people who are super busy, like a lot of busy moms are like distance, just go for it. There's Zoom and then there's in person. So obviously if you're local, but and I can also do over the phone. People don't want Zoom. It's really whatever works best for people. I find there's no modality that's better or worse than the other in terms of distance, Zoom, phone, or in person. It's really honestly just whatever works best for the client. So if anyone's interested, you just go to the contact part of my website and reach out and then I'll call you, text, email, whatever you prefer. And we'll kind of talk about when's best for you. Cause I also muscle test to make sure you're ready and make sure that our time for, our session is ideal for you. So there's a little bit more that goes into it but that's how you would schedule with me. Just reach out and then I get back to you.
Awesome. And you've got a couple of offers too. I'll put all of this information in the show notes, but you've got individual sessions and group packages too.
Yeah. I found that there's some people that, initially I always suggest just doing an individual. Make sure this is what you want. Make sure this works for you. Make sure that you are open to it, because I think that's important because if you're not, then I don't want anyone wasting their time or money. It's not fair to anyone involved. So I do 5 packs because for some people, it just financially, it saves you a little bit more. And for some people who are like, listen, I know this is what I want to work on and I am committed to doing it over a certain amount of time or whatever, doesn't matter. They never expire, but it's just a little bit easier of an investment on the wallet if you do the 5. And kids sessions under 10 and pet sessions are typically cheaper because they don't last as long. As mentioned with me is going to be over an hour, a little, for most. And, because there's a lot we talk through and we go through and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's really what I appreciate about this work is you can be as open or as quiet as you want. Your subconscious is going to lead me either way. And we don't have to dig up anything unless you want to. If people want to talk about it, that's great and they can. But for people that are really private and don't, especially like my teens and tweens, some of them love to talk about it and some of them, they don't, and they just want to heal. And so, I'll explain things to them and we'll go through it. But if they're quiet, that's okay. The energy still goes, and still heal. And so I appreciate that aspect about it too. Because you can be as open or as private as you want. It still works.
I love that. This is fantastic. I've learned so much from you and I'm so happy to have connected with you. And I'll put all this information in the show notes so folks can find you and hopefully book up your calendar.
Thank you for joining us on Your Radiant Spirit. If today's episode lit up your creativity or helped you connect with your inner energy, please leave us a review and share your thoughts. Your feedback helps us spread more light to others. To dive deeper, visit www.heathereck.com for courses, workshops, and custom spirit portraits. And for daily inspiration and behind-the-scenes magic, follow Heather on Instagram at @HeatherEckArtist. Your radiant spirit is calling. Take the next step on your journey. See you next time.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.